Hello and welcome to the newest and most exciting podcast on the block, Box Media Talk, brought to you by Box Media TV, the one and only platform that brings together boxing news, entertainment, features and education, all packaged concisely and nicely as a gift from us to you.
This is Box Media Talks, brought to you by Box Media TV. Today, we had to get together, emergency call, put the bat signal in the sky, 999, 911, whatever you want to call it, to discuss the aftermath of Gennady, GGG, Golovkin versus Kell Brook. I'm Fighting Ed. With me, I have Adrian Greenland, Terry Dirt Dog Chapandama, Junior The Rhodes. Bearing in mind that we all made predictions, was it what you expected? Terry?
I said it would be a TKO in the fourth. I thought it was going to go in the fourth, but, Brook managed to evade that, but he's going to get caught in the fifth. I think we need to be realistic and say it was always going to be a kamikaze mission. Managed to catch up with Dominic Ingle on the Friday. We had a quick chat. Obviously, you can't tell a trainer what to do in the fight. But I just said you can take inspiration from Nigel Benn against Iran Barkley, Nigel Benn against Gerald McClellan. And you've just got to kamikaze and hope that you cut Golovkin somewhere, eye, nose, something that shows Golovkin's human. And he wasn't able to do that in the first 4 rounds. And then Golovkin was there just saying, right, this is my time now. He was patient, and I'm sure Abel Sanchez, prior to the fight, would have said to him, look, he's going to come out, and he's going to try and impress his home fans. Let him do it. Make the fight entertaining, make it interesting. Just know that he can't do this in the second half of the fight.
Definitely. Junior, what did you expect?
Well, I expected a slightly different fight. I expected Kell to grab more, a bit like the Porter thing. I thought he'd jab, hit him with the overhand right and tried to nullify Gennady's power by grabbing him. But they tried to put Gennady on the back foot and they succeeded in the second round. And I was very impressed with Kell. I don't know if he hurt Gennady, but he definitely put him back, pushed him back. And it was impressive and not what I expected at all. I expected Gennady to use his jab to kind of nullify Kell's speed as well, because Gennady's quite slow, his hands and his lateral movement. So I expected Kell, being a welterweight, to be faster than him on the feet and with the hands as well. And I expected him to use his jab more. But I was really impressed with Kell while the fight lasted, definitely.
And guys, what do you make of Kell Brook's power?
It's real. Let's be brutally honest here. Golovkin has the ultimate poker face. In and out the ring, he gives nothing away. And I think that's a legacy of growing up somewhere like Kazakhstan, where it's a very tough environment and you can't betray any sign of weakness. He's probably just grown up in that environment. But Brook hurt it because, as I said to one of these supposed boxing experts, just get hit by a 7-year-old kid in the face, 6 or 7 times. It's uncomfortable.
Of course.
So when you get hit by a professional boxer with, I never know if it's 8 or 10 ounce gloves at middleweight, I'm going to say it's 10 ounce gloves, it has an effect. You feel it. It's uncomfortable. It's about whether you show that or not. And Golovkin is the master of not showing it.
So just touching on that point, Terry, did he actually hurt him though, or was it uncomfortable? There's a difference. Do you know what I mean? There's a difference between actually being genuinely hurt and an uncomfortable pounding in the face.
Golovkin will wake up today and he will feel that he was in a fight yesterday. That's for sure. And I don't think he could say that about many other fights, because if you look and those who subscribe to my updates, Junior seen this. One thing I've always said about Kell is he can find the chin with the right hand, and he was able to do that at will because his right hand is quick and it's accurate. And that's knuckle on jaw. You can't put muscles on that. So he was hurting him, but Golovkin's a bigger man. He's used to taking those shots. So psychologically, it wasn't having an effect, even if it was physically.
It's an interesting point. For me, I think we all know Kell Brook is a very skillful fighter, that he has No, I think we knew he was strong from the way he manhandled Porter, but this is a different animal altogether. We know, we kind of know what Golovkin can do, what his capabilities are. For me, the one variable in this fight was Kell's power, and would it carry, and what would it be at middleweight if this is his true weight? That was the one variable. His only hope, so to speak, was to hurt Golovkin and to go for a KO. From ringside or from the arena, watching it live, Kell was strong. Did his punches hurt? I mean, there's some rumours going around, largely stoked by Eddie Hearn, that the legs buckled. I didn't see that being at the fight. What I did see was Golovkin, a weakness in his defence in terms of his body movement. And I think that's due to a lack of respect of his opponents. As you said there, Terry, even if a 7-year-old hits you in the face, it's going to hurt. Golovkin would take a half step back when Kell Brook would push him off and go on the front foot. And Kell Brook would tee off with 3-4 shots because Golovkin would just stand there and take them. He bobs and weaves very sporadically. When he does it, it's very good. But sometimes he just stands there. And I think part of it is because he's fought so many people that were scared of him. He's had to force. He's almost forced to let them fight, to let them throw, so that, to make a fight of it. I think that Golovkin is probably better than what he showed yesterday, and he was still quite, and when he turned it on, he was still he was imperious and very dangerous when he did turn it on. That takes nothing away from Kell Brook, who I thought was phenomenal also.
So, Junior, just the final note then to follow up from what Ed said and Terry said about the power. Obviously, Kell Brook was visibly hurt in the first round. Legs went disorientated. When we're talking about power, then, did we see anything like that in terms of Golovkin? In terms of being, he was hurt or he was troubled, but was he hurt? Was he really?
Well, this is the thing. When we come into power, firstly, like you said, I just want to mention Kell Brook had a phenomenal arm. I mean, he was really hurt in the first round and came back and took the fight to Golovkin in the second. But when we're talking about power, look at the Canelo, and I call him that for a reason because he's running, and Mayweather fight. Mayweather didn't have concussive power. Like, he put him on the back foot with some of his shots. That was similar to what was happening in this fight. Kell was able to put Gennady on the back foot with some of his shots. So, I mean, Mayweather, a lot of people thought Mayweather would run around the ring and dance around Canelo, but he took the middle of the ring and dominate the fight, outboxed him. And I think that's what Kell was trying to do with Gennady here. He definitely stung him. He definitely put him on the back foot. And it showed a different weakness to Gennady as well. Something that Oscar was mentioning years ago when he was talking rubbish about coming out from retirement and all this. And I never took Oscar seriously because he always says stuff like he's got a blueprint to beat Mayweather, a 10-year blueprint that no one's been able to use successfully. So when he said that Gennady's weak on the back foot, he sees a weakness. I didn't really take that seriously, but Kell kind of showed that yesterday in a few rounds that he was successful. Maybe in the second and the fourth, definitely.
No, I think that's a very good point, and it could be he's weak on the back foot because he's never had to fight on the back foot, so he doesn't know how.
Exactly.
Doesn't know how. So he did just stand there. So in that said, did we learn anything new from GGG? Anything surprise us?
Yes, he's human, and you watch that fight, and if you're Danny Jacobs, you're rubbing your hands going, I think I can put a dent in this guy. I watched the Jacobs-Mora fight on the Friday, and Jacobs isn't the most impressive of athletes, but remember, this guy survived cancer, so he operates from a different mindset, you'd assume.
But so does Lance Armstrong, and we all know how that story went. So let's focus on the boxing.
But in the same vein, these guys will take risks that others might not because they know what it's like to be in another space. So if you have someone like Jacobs who has that confidence now because he's seen Kell Brook humanize Golovkin, and Jacobs is going, I hit much harder than Kell Brook. Let me get that right hand.
Let's be. I saw the Mora fight too. He slaps harder than Kell Brook because Jacobs could work on his clenching his fist properly and turning his punches over somewhat.
But there's the same argument for probably 80% of fighters. I don't think many people punch properly, But the fact is, it puts people down, and that's what fans want to see. Jacobs has called him out, so let's see if Jacobs is as good as his word, and let's see if someone actually moves and has power, what happens. The one thing I don't want to hear is any nonsense about Erislandy Lara, because that guy wouldn't stand a chance against Golovkin. It'd be the hiding that, he's the guy's a hipster boxer, pardon my expression, where people love the idea of Lara being this guy that can run around, make you miss. But Lara has no power, he has no threat, and Golovkin will mince him in 4 rounds.
Terry, with Jacobs, do you think he's got the chin to stand up to Gennadi's power? Because that's one thing that Kell showed. He had a chin. I mean, they literally have to break his face to stop the fight. But has Jacobs got enough fight in him to
50-50. Maybe, maybe not. We won't know until he gets hit by Golovkin. And I think, you've seen Jacobs look vulnerable before in the first Mora fight, but you don't know if that's just you get hit accurately in the right place and you drop, or that's just you've got chin issues. So, let's not let the chin issues
to be honest,
should fight.
To be honest, I think we're clutching at straws by suggesting that Jacobs is in the same league as Golovkin. I really do. The original question that I posed to you guys was, did we see anything new from Golovkin? And the answer could be maybe not, or maybe more of the same, but it reaffirmed a few things. Number one.
Well, yeah, I don't know. If I say, I mentioned last week about the punch power, that was solid. He came out in the 5th. He didn't come out before the 5th, really swinging. And also the point that was made last week as well, that he absorbs shots. He will hit, and he will get hit. He'll absorb the shots and give back worse. So I don't really feel like, from my perspective, I really learned anything new from GGG. Got the job done.
I learned.
I don't think the power was that real.
To be honest, I learned a few. I saw 1 or 2 things. Firstly, and I think it's a point that Junior made last week, is Golovkin has a phenomenal jab. His jab is very, very serious. He doesn't use it all the time. Doesn't always work behind his jab, but his jab is very, very good. The second thing I learned is Golovkin's actually an intelligent boxer. He doesn't respect anyone's power or strength, so he's relentless in coming forward. But when he wants to, and Terry, you noticed this as well, when he sporadically does decide to bob, weave, to move, Kell Brook was swinging and missing as well. It's just that he's very selective as to when he chooses to do that. Finally, then, I say the point 3 is, Junior, you just raised, can someone's chin stand up to the power of Golovkin? The issue isn't the chin. The issue is above the temple. Because Golovkin is very intelligent, and the nature and the angle of hooks he throws is deliberate. I've realised that now. It's how he chooses to box. He aims for the temple or just above the top of the head. He doesn't aim for the chin much. And that's why it's not so much can your chin stand up to it, it's kind of top can your skull, all right, your forehead and your temple stand up to it. And the answer normally is no. It might be because anyone gets hit on that spot they get dizzy. Or it could be because he just hits that hard. But it's deliberate and he's very good at it.
Well, we've seen the X-rays of Kell Brook's head, basically.
Yeah.
The evidence is there, isn't it?
Yeah. And that said, Junior, two questions here. In the immediate aftermath, so before we saw the broken eye socket, what were your thoughts on the stoppage?
I remember watching him dab his eye, but I didn't see too much of a cut there, so I didn't understand what was going on. I thought he was getting something like blood trickling into his eye. I thought he had a cut above his eye, basically. But I definitely agree with the stoppage. From a fan's point of view, Brook was still in the fight. Well, it looked like he was still in the fight. We didn't know the full damage of what was going on. So we wanted to see more, and we was impressed by Brook. He gave a good account of himself. But the stoppage was fair, definitely fair. It was definitely the right thing to do. You don't want his whole face to drop off in the middle of the fight and stuff, and you don't want his career to be over and done with. So they done the right thing.
Terry?
Malignaggi called it perfectly. I think he's the first guy to call it and say that's his orbital bone gone. That's why he's dabbing that way. And Paulie's exact words were, you feel it, but it's a different kind of feeling. That's how you know it's your orbital bone, and it disorientates you because you've never felt that before. So you could see there was a point in the fight where Brook goes to grab the side of his eye just before Golovkin's about to attack, and it almost confused Golovkin, like, what the hell's going on here? And I think that was the point where I was like, there's something off here. And then you were looking at Dominic Ingle in the corner, and it was almost like he was saying, look, tell me how you feel, or I'm going to stop this. And that was at the end of the 4th round. And then you could see, like, I watched the tail end of it, and people were like, Brook was reacting that way because Golovkin was hurting him. It almost looked like Brook didn't know what was going on, so he was over-exaggerating his defensive movements. and then in turn that then puts you in the wrong position to come back with any shots. It just looked like he was out of his fighting rhythm at that point.
So from watching the fight live, I disagree slightly. I think that, I mean, and a good analogy I'd give you is let's look at Quigg Frampton. Quigg sustained a broken jaw in the fourth, I think it was. The nature of his fighting and approach, and the manner in which he was defeated, wouldn't then come down to the fact wasn't put down to the fact he had a broken jaw.
No, but he could still see, right?
He could still, yeah, but he could. I mean, but could he still withstand shots? Could he?
No,
He still.
but he could
When you have a
still
broken
see.
jaw, even the vibration of jumping and walking around, that it shudders right to your brain.
But here we're almost not discussing the pain element. I think most professional boxers can absorb the pain. It's visually, you've got one eye off. Rest assured, as the guy who's got one eye that moves from side to side, there is nothing worse than, you blink and all of a sudden Golovkin's 2 inches closer than you thought he was. And look, that's happened to me in the ring before. So I fully understand when your eyes start playing up in the ring, you start moving in ways where it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, it's never happened to me in the ring because my defense is that good. But I take your point there, Terry. Having seen you box a number of times. What I will say is that there was a notable change in gears from Golovkin. He got frustrated after Kell had a very strong round in the third, I think it was.
Yeah, the third round.
Yeah, but he upped it, and it was and I think, as you said earlier, Terry, the tactic was clear. Let this guy have his fun, let him engage. Kell fought out of his socks for 4 rounds, but it's going to exhaust you. Golovkin is a very strong man. You could see that in there. It took all of Kell's explosive power and endurance to keep pushing him off. So it was difficult. Just before the stoppage, before they started waving the towel, everyone watching was like, Kell's in serious trouble here.
It's the way he came out for the fifth. I feel like the first 4, it's like Mayweather-esque in terms of the first 2, where he'll drop a few rounds. He doesn't mind losing a few rounds because he kind of stood there a bit and just absorbed the pressure. The third, I feel like Kell's confidence rose as a result, and then kind of they had a long and hard chat in the fourth, probably in his corner. But the way he came out for the 5th round, all guns blazing, he physically leaped. Like, you could see him, his movement. It wasn't sort of squat lateral movement. It was almost, he was gliding across the surface. He came out swinging. I think he threw a right hook that just missed Kell Brook. And yeah, his attitude towards the 5th round was very aggressive. So,
speed and movement changed across the ground.
Yeah. I mean, do you guys think that it was more he chose the 5th? This is what's going to happen. So he almost could have chosen that in the 2nd or the 3rd. Was it inevitable, or was Kell Brook fighting that well?
No. Let's give Kell his credit. Kell fought well. But something that was said at the weigh-in between myself and Matthew was this: he has to be at 110% for 12 rounds. Golovkin can be at 80% for 12 rounds and win. The minute you feel that your eyes gone, whether you're at 110% or 120%, now you're dropping below 100, and you don't really stand a chance. And it's just a question of when, not if, the fight gets stopped. So my assumption is Dominic Ingle had a very clear line, and he knew, if this line gets crossed, I'm stopping the fight.
But let's be clear as well. When we say his eye went, it was a punch from Golovkin in the 2nd round.
It could have been a fly. I mean, the effect is still the same.
No. What I'm saying is, if it was a fly, if it was a headbutt, accidental clash of heads, then it's not it's not down to the boxing, the skill. It was a punch, but delivered by Golovkin that caused the damage.
Okay, I don't know how that adds to it, but yeah.
No, I feel like a lot of people are kind of underplaying the fact that Golovkin has broken his eye socket. It's almost like, yeah, Kell fought well. If it wasn't for the injury, then he may have gone on to win, but he got damaged by Golovkin's fist. At the end of the day, that's the fact. Slice it and dice it. That's the fact.
No, I don't think it's that. I think there's one indisputable fact. Kell Brook lost. And no one's going to dispute that because it's a fact. What we're saying, I hope this is the message, is Brook probably could have given a better account of himself, even in defeat, had he not had that issue.
So you're saying if Golovkin chose not to punch him in the 2nd round, Brook could have done better? Of course he would, Terry. know.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, it's one of those things that's unlucky, and you think to yourself, you know, if it had been a broken cheekbone, would have been the same effect? Had it been someone with the mandible, would have been the same effect? You almost have to look at Kell and go, look, at some point you've got to fight again. Will you ever fight at 160 again? Don't know. But if you were to fight at 160 again, these are the things where you've got to be able to say, well, it was a punch where a knuckle landed on a bone. At this sort of level, that's bound to happen. You know, fractured eye socket, the fight was done. There are many fights that end prematurely, and this is one of those that it might have ended prematurely. You know,
It did. If it doesn't end prematurely, if the guy in one corner inflicts damage on the other one to a point where they can't continue, it's not premature. That's a stoppage because they won the fight because they forced the stoppage. It's not premature. It's boxing. I mean, I know you're a Carl Frampton fan, for example. If he hadn't broken Quigg during the fourth, are we going to say actually Quigg would actually won the fight? You know, it's just unfortunate the draw break happened and Quigg didn't win.
No, what we're going to say is the dynamics of the fight might have been different. We can't say they would have been for sure, but they might have been different.
So if Canelo hadn't knocked out Cold in the fifth round, the dynamics of the fight would have been different. Of course they would.
Well, I think we're pushing this to the levels of absurdity now.
Okay.
Still remains the same.
Speaking of absurdity, in former interviews, Billy Joe Saunders has, and I think I quote, said that Golovkin would beat himself and Eubank in the same night. Now his name's been touted. Golovkin wants to clean up. In the next kind of immediate future for GGG. Next opponent, Billy Joe Saunders, the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months for Golovkin. How do they look, Junior?
I think Billy Joe needs to find another excuse. I think basically what Billy Joe's doing is he's trying to save face. He knows what he said. He knows he doesn't stand a chance against Golovkin. I think he's waiting for the Canelo fight, basically. I think that's in the pipeline. If Canelo beats Liam Smith, then I think that's the next logical step for Canelo. And if Canelo then goes on to beat Billy Joe, then it's a super fight, you know.
We're talking about logical steps for Canelo, but he's fighting Liam Smith. Is there any logic in Canelo and what he did in his fight?
Well, do you know what? I call him Canelo because he runs, but I don't blame him too much. I think he's protected. I think it's Oscar De La Hoya pulling him away from all the dangerous fights, and that's been there in the past. Even with the Lara fight, Oscar De La Hoya came out on record and said he didn't want him to take that fight. It was too early. But Canelo pushed, and he had to give way. But I think Canelo actually does want to fight Triple G. They've had good spars by all accounts in the past and stuff. But he's just been protected, and I think this is where we've got to give a bit of praise to Eddie Hearn here. You know, he's willing to throw his fighters in at the deep end. You know, I think there's praise and criticism that can be showed there. You know, is he really done the best for Kell Brook's career? I don't know, you know, but as fans, it's exciting because we're getting the best fights. You know, will he do it with Joshua and the rest of his top fighters? You know, or will he follow Yellow's path and Oscar De La Hoya and hiding and protecting them? You know.
Just to add on, Junior, and also Terry as well. Just a quick point. Today on Billy Joe Saunders' Instagram account, he was posted with the belt, recording himself saying that he's got a fight. I believe in October. I can't remember the exact date, 25th, 29th, something like that. But he's got a fight in October. And he said that he knows GGG's in the country for the next 2 to 3 days. He's happy to meet up with the Triple G camp. And he said he wants the GGG fight next. So he said he's going to do his fight date in October. And he wants that fight after that. He's called it out. It's on social. It's all over social media at the moment. So I guess, what are your thoughts on that? It looks like it's going to happen.
Well, he's done this before, hasn't he? He said the same thing before when he was talking about Wembley fighting on the undercard, Klitschko and Fury and having a big thing, and it's just talk, man. He's gonna swerve it again, and I don't blame him. You know, if there's big money out there to fight Canelo, so if he's gonna make more money to fight Canelo than Gennady, then why not? You know, but he still has to say. Save face. He has to save face, and that's what he's doing. He's just saving face. I mean, Gennady called him out directly after the interview. I want Billy Joe. I'm staying here. I want Billy Joe. So Billy Joe says styling.
Yeah, agreed. Do you think? I mean, we're talking about Billy Joe now. There's an opportunity for him out of this, but Is it? I mean, I was at the fight, and there was some disgruntled people there saying the real winner once again is Eddie Hearn. Terry, what's your take on that? You know, is Eddie Hearn rubbing his hands together, thinking, Froch grows too, more money. You know, isn't such a bad result.
Everyone wins from this fight. Everyone. There isn't a single loser in this fight. Billy Joe Saunders doesn't have to fight Canelo. He's got options that will make him probably close to as much money. He can fight Andy Lee again. He can fight Quillen. He can fight Jacobs. He can fight one of the 154s moving up. He can fight Lara. He has options because Billy Joe's not one of the all-time greats. So the expectations on him are a bit lower. Golovkin can't really fight most of those guys because we know how that will end. So he can swerve Golovkin for another 2 years and have meaningful fights because those guys are at his level. So out of this one, he wins because his name's in the discussion. So Billy Joe Saunders is now known to more people.
Terry, just kind of off what Ed just mentioned as well, more referring to the card yesterday, Eddie took quite a few losses in theory. His fighters didn't all achieve. Notably, Charlie Edwards was brutally knocked down by the Filipino kid. Obviously, Kell Brook lost, Hall lost. So that's referring to the point, was Eddie Hearn the real winner? Again, in terms of...
Yes. Well, look, there's a narrative there for a Brook Golovkin rematch down the line. He was ahead on the cards. The ice socket stopped the fight. There's a little bit of a narrative you could spin if Kell ever wanted to box at 160 and made a career of it. So by then, Golovkin would be a little bit older, maybe a bit more human. So there's a narrative there. Golovkin wins because he's now a bona fide star. You know, in this country, he knows he can fill arenas. He's definitely an A-side proposition now. You know, when he wants to call out guys like DeGan and Groves, he can say, "Look, this is what I bring to the table." Eubank Jr. wins because he came up with the line, "My corner don't have towels." So he's portraying himself as a bad guy again, which is more money for him. Amir Khan wins because now the Kell Brook Khan fight has some kind of economic value because Kell's proven himself.
I disagree with you there. I think Khan is deluded, and his perception of Kell needs to prove himself is a deluded perception.
But there's money in the fight.
There's definitely money in the fight, but I think,
and that's the bottom line in this one, isn't it? There's money on the table for everyone as a result of this fight.
I think we're at a stage now where Khan has to justify why he deserves to fight Kell Brook. Brook's corner essentially pulled him out.
No, not based on
CV. They both. Well, let's think about it. They both achieved 5 rounds against these beastly middleweights, but Khan got starched. Brook's corner pulled him out just in time to have a better performance than Khan.
No. Amir Khan has a better CV than Kell Brook. Amir Khan, whether he's won or lost, isn't the issue. Amir Khan, better known internationally than Kell Brook. He has every right to have that fight. Kell wants to prove a point against Amir Khan. Khan wants to prove a point against Danny Garcia. So there's still levels to this.
As Khan's CV, does it not suggest that he graduated from uni in 2002 with a first, and he hasn't worked since? That's how it feels. That's how it feels. Because what has he done in the last 3 years? What has Khan done?
Khan's CV is a victory over Maidana. That's it, really. I mean, let's not pretend that Devin Alexander was a good victory, or Devin Alexander was the kind of fighter a lot of people claimed he was. Let's not pretend. Who else has Khan beaten? He's lost handsomely to some good fighters. Who's he beaten?
Let's not fall into the trap of judging Khan's CV against where we want Khan to be. Let's judge it against Kell Brook's CV. Because against Kell Brook's CV, Khan stacks up nicely.
No, in terms of who he's beaten or who he's faced.
Who he's faced.
But he's lost the fights though. He's lost the fights though, Terry.
Yeah, but winning or losing isn't what we're discussing here because it's about who's the A side. That's the argument we're having. Who's the A side? It's therefore who gets the lion's share. This is why the fight hasn't happened because they both believe they're the A side.
No, the fight hasn't happened because Khan believes he's the A side by circa 80 to 20%. That's what hasn't happened. Brook was previously willing to take probably a smaller cut. Just don't take liberties, I think.
But prior to yesterday, that was an argument that most people outside of the UK were like, yeah, we know Khan, we don't really know this Kell Brook apart from the Porter fight. But you haven't seen anything since. So I genuinely, I think when you look at it, you'd like to see those two at least now go to 50-50 You know, we split the post 50-50. Best man wins.
Okay. So I mean, so now we've touched upon Terry's idolisation of Amir Khan and the Kell Brook Persimmon 50-50 split. How does that's like all jokes aside, Junior, how does the next 18 months of Kell Brook look?
This is the thing. For me personally, I don't want to see him go back down to 147. The only fight for him to go back down to 147 is Khan. You know, that's a big money, maybe even a Wembley fight if it's promoted right. I would like to see him stay at 154 and find a Jojo Dan at the 154 level, maybe a top 15 contender, maybe 2 fights like that, then take on a Charlo, maybe a Liam Smith, try and get a belt at 154 and build a career at 154. And there's big fights at 154. Cotto's still hanging around. Right? You can fight Cotto. If Canelo, when Canelo eventually loses or eventually faces Triple G, after that he can fight Canelo. You know, there's some monsters at 154 as well. Guys like Andrade, Demetrius Andrade.
Yeah, you don't want that work.
You don't want none of those guys just yet. I don't want to see him at the deep end. I want his face to fix, basically, and him to be able to just have a few feeler fights, get used to the weight. You know, he was really thrown in at the deep end against Gennady, and we have to give him respect. Out of everything, like Terry said, he's a winner because he's won respect. You know, I think he earned Gennady's respect in that
Definitely.
So he's a winner in that respect, and he's got world respect as well. What he's done, the feat and the bravery that he showed, like he's got the respect of the American public as well. So there's big fights for him out there. I think Cotto fight is around the corner. If he can just get used to 154, you know, and there might be an easy title shot for him somewhere down the line in there as well. I think just a few settled down fights at 154. I don't want to see him go down and fight Errol Spence. That's not fair. It's just not fair. You can't fight Gennady. It's just not fair, man. You know? Give the guy a break, especially with his face, you know, broken. He's got an excuse now to sit down for a good few months, heal, and then reflect and really like rebuild his career. You know,
Definitely.
Just to confirm, Kell has said, I think it was last night, early hours of the morning, that he won't be coming back down to welterweight. He will be going to 154. But interestingly, he said he's going down there, but he wants to fight the winner of Canelo and Smith.
Perfect.
I mean, in terms of the structure of his career, because if you look at it now, he's gone from welterweight and he's jumped up to fight GGG. He's lost. So then to go back down again and try and go for the kings of that division again, is that a smart move? Or does he need to, in terms of the structure of his career, should he structure it traditionally where he fights a few guys and gets the shots? Or should he just try and go straight headhunting for the big guys?
Go back to the old days. Bob Foster, lightweight champion of the world, fought Joe Frazier, got knocked out, went back, defended his title. You know what I mean? In the old days, you just fought. Men fought and they chased greatness. I think Hopkins said it fantastically well. We need to go back to the old school values where people try to be great. Brook should fight everyone who's a threat. Fight Cotto, fight Canelo, and then say to Spence, come up to 154. Let's finish what we started. All of these fights, because even if he loses, you have to look at him and go, that's a stellar CV. Because if you look at someone like Carl Froch, I think he's an example. Froch has lost a fair few fights in his time, but he's also won them. And this country especially loves that comeback story. So keep chasing those big fights. I think more people should do that. You know, look, Charlie Edwards now. And this idea of remaining undefeated is a fiction created by Mayweather. You know, that somehow there's value in being undefeated. There shouldn't be. There should be value in testing yourself against the best, and hopefully Kell will keep doing that.
No, let's not discredit what Mayweather achieved and done, but let's just be clear, he's the only person that can do it in the modern era. You know, because he Mayweather tested himself. Let's make no bones about it, right? In different weight categories, you know, he dared. It's just that he won them all, all right? But on your point you made about, you know, the old days, you know, and you know, a good throwback fighter in terms of style, and a good throwback fight we saw on Friday was Robert Easter Jr. Comey. Guys, did you see that amazing action?
Which one's the throwback fighter?
Both of them.
I would not say, if anything, Easter's too much of a Mayweather clone. He should actually go back to being old school like Tommy Hearns.
In what way would you say he's a Mayweather clone, Toby?
So if you watch how Easter fights, under pressure, he adopts that Mayweather stance where he'll curl his left arm around his abdomen and then hold the shoulder up because he knows he's taller than his opponents. He can hold a high shoulder, which negates the right hand, which is great because he comes back with that right.
So I'm assuming you didn't see the right hands that were landing, and he dropped him in the fight, then, Terry.
No. If you watch someone like a Thomas Hearns, for example, Tommy Hearns was like, I'm the hardest puncher in this division. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to tee you up with the jab, smash you with the right hand. And the fight's going to happen at my distance. Hearns would never have let Tommy get close enough to throw that right hand. And I think Easter Jr., I had a really good chat with his good friend, a guy called Gerald Tucker, who's a friend of mine as well. And we're talking about that. And he does need to start studying a bit more, the true leverage punches from history. Bob Foster's another, leverage.
I think you've let your disdain for Mayweather carry over into your answer to this question. All right? Do I agree that he's?
But when you're 5'11" and you're taller than your opponent by about 3 inches, you don't really need to adopt that sort of stance.
Do I agree that he can, in terms of leverage, wider stance between the legs, and really throwing that right hand long and really spitefully? Can he do that a bit more? Yes. But in terms of him being a Mayweather clone, I completely disagree. In terms of his style, it's very, very different. I in fact think he takes too much risk in his fight, and he can make the fight a lot simpler. He can make it more. He can make it a lot more boring.
So when the kid himself is saying I'm inspired by Mayweather, when he's talking out of the Punch House gym, when he's up there with Barry Hunter saying exactly the same thing, and he's there because remember he's Broner's friend, and when he's there mimicking that Broner style as well, that whole high shoulder.
So any box
is there. And the problem with that style is this, and I've said this repeatedly: you have to be 10 out of 10 speed, 10 out of 10 timing, 10 out of 10 ring smarts to execute that style in a way that means you don't get hurt.
Two things there. Any up and coming boxer that is not influenced by Mayweather is foolish.
Why?
Because he's the best of the modern era.
Roberto Duran. Why not Roberto Duran? If you're talking about living boxers, then why not be influenced by Roberto?
Who took more punishment in their fights?
It's irrelevant.
No. It's very relevant.
Who fought more great?
It's very relevant.
More bona fide great.
Who took more punishment?
Who fought more bona fide great?
Who took more punishment? Answer the question.
Who beat the man that is generally accepted as being the one guy who would have beaten Mayweather? Who? Roberto Duran. Roberto Duran is, in my opinion, the greatest living boxer.
So this is the problem, and this is why Box Media Talks, by Box Media TV, we have such great conversations because boxing is about opinion, and we have varied opinions. If we're talking about even people who make great interpretive leaps about who beat the man, who was thought could have maybe beaten Mayweather, therefore he's better than Mayweather.
No. Stop. Roberto Duran is better than Mayweather. Full stop. Like across any dimension. Full stop.
I feel like we're deviating into a TMT camp conversation. Junior, let me just focus on you quickly. Robert Easter Jr. Defeated Richard Comey on Friday night in the States. I can't remember where it was.
Crazy.
Amazing. Did you watch the fight?
Do you know what? I've been saving that fight. I was saving it for tonight.
Listen, it's a real.
Barnstormer.
It's a barnstormer. That's the word. Barnstormer.
When we're talking about old school styles, I think a lot of people get confused with his frame and compare him to Hearns because he's got a similar kind of rangy frame that Hearns had. He reminds me a bit like Crawford in a bit, and that's a fight I'd love to see because I think they're only like one weight apart. He reminds me of that. He's got that range and stuff, and the spiteful punches and stuff. I was very impressed with him when I first saw him. But yeah, that's a fight I'd like to see in the future. Robert Easter Jr. versus Crawford. If they can build up Easter Jr. at that weight below, the 135, and then transfer into a super fight at 140, that would be great. What's you guys' thoughts on that? Who do you think could take that?
I think it's interesting because they're both susceptible to taking big shots as well, which makes it an exciting fight. I think I would actually favour Easter Jr. slightly because I think he has a lot more improvements to make, and I think if he works, as Terry has said, one point to make, if he uses his size and frame properly, he can have 4 rounds ahead by the 8th, and work from that basis. But Crawford seems able to do what he needs to do every time. So both yet to reach their full potential.
What about Easter Jr.'s experience? Because obviously, I think he's only had 17 fights. Is that right? Do you think he needs a bit more experience, a bit more seasoning before he takes on somebody like Crawford?
I don't think he should go anywhere near Crawford for the time being. I think Crawford's only going to get better. Yeah, I feel like they're very similar in styles, and I feel like it's no mistake to kind of compare the two. But I feel like Crawford's quite a lot further ahead in his journey, and I feel it's not something someone he should fight unless he has to, in my opinion. Crawford is dangerous. So we'll see how it pans out. Obviously, another fight coming up soon. Something that we'll touch on soon as well is Canelo Smith. We're looking forward to that on the 17th of September. So that should be good stuff as well.
Definitely. And we won't get into detail on that fight too much. What we will do is, and we'll write them down this time, is in anticipation of our next podcast, early predictions on Canelo Smith.
Just to point out as well, I haven't been credited for my 5th round stoppage victory. I also went on to Paddy Power, put a tenner down and got 90 back, so I'm quite pleased about that. But yeah,
You did call it, Adrian. So well done there. Canelo Smith, we'll talk some more next week, but early predictions at this stage. Junior?
It's a bit unfair to make a prediction now. I'll make a prediction properly next week when we do the pod, but obviously a Canelo victory.
What, on the Sunday, Junior?
Huh?
On the Sunday?
All right, then I'll make a prediction now. Canelo by points.
Canelo on points?
Yeah, Canelo on points.
Terry?
I think Canelo will stop Smith in about round 8.
Junior? Sorry, Adrian, sorry.
I haven't really thought too much about the method of victory, but it's always going to be Canelo. It's just about when. It'll be a stoppage. Yeah, I'll go for 8 rounds. 8 round stoppage.
And then we need Fighting Ed's prediction for once.
Am I not allowed to sit on the fence this time round?
You're going to anyway.
Not if you want to keep the name Fighting Ed. You could be sitting Ed.
Yeah, I feel like we need something. We need something, Ed.
There will be a victory. Guys, it's been Box Media Talks. Watch our Box Media TV. Until next week, thank you and goodbye.